The cause of death for KISS founding member Ace has been released. The medical examiner says the 47-year-old died from blunt trauma.
They should have been here with us 50 or 55 years later and enjoying the fruits of their labor, but sadly they're not.
To the head after a fall, and his death is being ruled as accidental.
The cause of death is now official, but Gene Simmons' response has fans asking, was there more to Ace Frehley's final days than we've been told? The answer will shock you. October 16, 2025, a ventilator was switched off in a New Jersey hospital room. The spaceman's heart stopped beating, and for weeks the rock world mourned without knowing the full truth. Until today. TMZ just released the Morris County Medical Examiner's report. The official cause of death, blunt force trauma to the head from a fall. But it's what happened after that report went public that has everyone talking. Because Gene Simmons didn't just release a standard tribute, he exposed something he'd been hiding for over 4 decades. And what he revealed changes everything we thought we knew about KISS. The medical details are brutal. Ace suffered a skull fracture at the back of his head. A subdural hematoma formed between his brain and its protective outer layer. Blood pooled where it shouldn't exist. Then came the stroke. Doctors performed emergency surgery to evacuate the bleeding, but the damage was already done. His family faced an impossible choice, and on that October day, they let him go. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not to Ace Frehley, not to the 74-year-old guitar legend who was still touring, still recording, still living the rock and roll dream just weeks earlier. One fall in his home studio, one moment of lost balance, and everything changed. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Because when Gene Simmons broke his silence, he didn't just mourn his bandmate, he confessed. Hours after the official announcement, Gene posted something on social media that stunned even longtime KISS fans. His words were raw, unfiltered, completely unlike the calculated businessman persona he'd maintained for 50 years. Today, I lost more than a bandmate, he wrote, I lost a brother. That alone would have been noteworthy, but Gene kept going. He revealed that despite decades of public tension, feuds, and bitter contract disputes, he and Ace had been talking privately, reconnecting, healing old wounds that fans assumed would never close. We spoke just 3 weeks ago, Gene disclosed. 3 weeks before that fatal fall. We were planning to meet up before Christmas. Some conversations shouldn't wait. I'm grateful we didn't leave things unsaid. Wait, Gene Simmons and Ace Frehley were planning a reunion meeting? The same 2 men who'd spent years trading barbs in interviews. The same partnership that imploded multiple times over money, creative control, and lifestyle choices? But Gene wasn't finished. What came next shattered everything fans thought they understood about KISS history. Back in 1982, when Ace left the band, I was devastated, Gene admitted. I put on a tough face publicly because that's what the band needed, but privately, I begged him to stay. Read that again. Gene Simmons begged. The demon. The man famous for his ruthless business decisions and ironclad contracts. The guy who built an empire on the KISS brand and never showed weakness. He begged Ace not to leave. I even offered to change aspects of our show, our music direction, to accommodate what he needed, Gene continued. For 4 decades, the narrative was that Gene and Paul forced Ace out because of his unreliability and substance issues, that the band was bigger than any one member, that business came first. Gene just admitted it was all a front. People assume I was the businessman who didn't care, he wrote, but I spent many nights wondering if I could have done more to keep our brotherhood intact. He called Ace our spiritual center, the soul of KISS in those early years. He praised his laugh, his unpredictability, his musical intuition. He called all of it irreplaceable. Then came the most stunning revelation. Gene admitted he would secretly watch from the side of the stage during Ace's guitar solos on the reunion tour, not for quality control, not for business reasons, but to be transported back to those early days when they were hungry kids playing clubs, when the music mattered more than the merchandise, when 4 misfits from New York were trying to conquer the world together. This is not the Gene Simmons the public knows. This is not the man who trademarked everything KISS-related and turned rock and roll into a billion-dollar brand. This is someone different, someone vulnerable, someone grieving the loss of something that can never be recovered. But here's what has fans really talking. Gene's biggest regret. My greatest regret will always be that the 4 of us couldn't find a way to share the stage one last time, he wrote. There were efforts behind the scenes fans never knew about. Pride and business got in the way on all sides. Now that opportunity is gone forever. Behind-the-scenes efforts, plural, multiple attempts to reunite the original lineup one final time, attempts that failed, and Gene's statement suggests it wasn't just about money or logistics. Pride got in the way, on all sides. What does that mean? Were there recent reunion discussions that fell apart? Was a farewell tour with all 4 original members actually on the table before Ace's fall? Gene's wording is careful, but the implication is clear. Something was in the works, something that will now never happen. Music journalists are calling this the most moving tribute one rock legend has ever paid to another. But is it just a tribute? Or is Gene trying to tell us something about the industry itself? About the machinery that pulls bands apart? About the business decisions that destroy brotherhoods? Wherever you are now, Space Ace, save me a spot in your band. Gene ended his message. I'll bring the bass. You bring that laugh that could light up any room. Rock and roll heaven just got a whole lot louder. Fans worldwide were stunned. Many admitted they'd never seen this side of Gene, never imagined he was capable of this level of emotional honesty. The comment sections filled with people reevaluating everything they thought they knew about Kiss's internal dynamics. But Gene's public statement was only the beginning. Sources close to the band revealed something even more surprising. Gene has been in daily contact with Ace's family since the passing, not just offering condolences, but providing practical help with funeral arrangements, ensuring Ace's musical legacy receives proper recognition, handling details that most people would delegate to managers or publicists. Paul Stanley confirmed what many suspected. In private, Gene is absolutely devastated. He revealed in an interview, "People don't realize how deep their connection was, even through all the difficult years. Even through the lawsuits, even through the public feuds, even through 3 separate departures from the band. The connection remained, hidden beneath the business, buried under the brand, but always there." So who was the man Gene Simmons is mourning? Who was Ace Frehley before he became the Spaceman? Born Paul Frehley in 1951, he grew up in the Bronx surrounded by music. His father Carl was a church organist. His mother Esther played piano. Music wasn't just in the house, it was the house. But young Paul was different from his classically trained family members. He didn't want lessons, he didn't want structure, he wanted to figure it out himself. Christmas 1964 changed everything. A 13-year-old kid received his first electric guitar, and something clicked. He taught himself by ear, spending hours alone in his room, learning riffs from Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin records. While his parents pushed for formal training, Paul chose his own path, a rebellious streak that would define his entire life. The Bronx in the 60s was rough. Paul got kicked out of 2 high schools, eventually dropped out of a 3rd. He ran with gangs. He was heading toward a dead end, but the guitar saved him, gave him purpose when everything else was falling apart. He would say this in countless interviews over the years. The guitar was his lifeline. That rebellious kid earned a nickname in high school. His friends noticed he had an unusual talent for getting dates, not just for himself, but for his buddies too. "You're an ace at getting girls," they told him, and Paul Frehley became Ace, a schoolyard nickname that would eventually be known worldwide. By early 1973, Ace was 22 years old, bouncing between local bands, playing dive bars across New York City. Talented but directionless. Then he saw an ad in the Village Voice, lead guitarist wanted with flash and ability. The band was called Wicked Lester, about to be renamed Kiss. Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley had already recruited drummer Peter Criss. They needed one more piece to complete their vision. The audition has become legendary. Ace showed up wearing mismatched sneakers, one red, one orange. He looked like he just rolled out of bed. Gene and Paul exchanged skeptical glances. Then Ace plugged in his guitar and played a blistering solo over their song Deuce. The room went silent. His playing was raw, powerful, and exactly what they needed. Within a week, Ace Frehley was officially the lead guitarist of Kiss. The band created larger-than-life personas. Gene became the Demon, Paul the Star Child, Peter the Catman, and Ace, with his love of science fiction, naturally became the Spaceman. Silver face paint with black starry eyes, one of rock's most recognizable images. But here's something most fans don't know. Ace designed the iconic Kiss lightning bolt logo, the image that would appear on billions of dollars worth of merchandise, the symbol that defined the band. That was Ace's creation, drawing on his background in graphic arts. On stage, Ace was magic. Offstage, he was shy, reserved, quiet in interviews. But when those lights came up, he transformed. He pioneered guitar stunts that are now rock standards. His guitar billowed smoke through hidden tubes. Rockets shot from his instrument. He rode a jetpack across the stage. Fans didn't just come to hear Kiss, they came to see the spectacle, and Ace was at the heart of it. Despite growing fame, Ace was initially reluctant to sing. He wrote Cold Gin for the first album, but let Gene handle the vocals. It wasn't until 1977's Love Gun that Ace finally took the microphone for Shock Me, a song inspired by a real incident where he was nearly electrocuted during a concert. The fans went wild, and Ace's confidence grew. Then came 1978, the year that proved Ace Frehley was more than just the Spaceman. Kiss made an unprecedented move. Each member would release a solo album simultaneously. Industry insiders predicted disaster. 4 albums competing against each other. It would cannibalize sales, confuse fans, damage the brand. Ace proved them all wrong. His self-titled album became the most successful of the 4. The single New York Groove climbed to number 13 on the Billboard charts. The album went platinum. Suddenly, Ace wasn't just the Spaceman. He was a star in his own right. He'd stepped out of the Kiss machine and succeeded independently. But success came with a price. The relentless touring schedule, the pressure of fame, the excesses that came with the rock and roll lifestyle. Tensions within Kiss grew, creative differences emerged, personal issues intensified, and by 1982, Ace made the decision to leave. Now we know what Gene was feeling behind the scenes, the devastation he hid from the public, the begging that happened in private, the offers to change the band's direction, all of it invisible to fans who assumed Gene was fine with Ace's departure. Ace retreated from the spotlight for a time, but music called him back. In 1984, he formed Frehley's Comet. Their self-titled 1987 debut featured the hit Into the Night. Ace had a loyal fan base. He didn't need Kiss to succeed, but the question always lingered, what if? Then in 1995, something happened that few thought possible. The original Kiss lineup reunited. Ace put on the Spaceman makeup again for the massively successful reunion tour. For millions of fans, it was a dream come true. The original 4 members back together, playing the songs that defined a generation. The reunion lasted until 2002, then Ace departed again. More tensions, more creative differences, more of whatever happens when 4 strong personalities try to share a stage. But now we know that behind the scenes, Gene never stopped missing him, never stopped watching those guitar solos from the side of the stage, never stopped wondering what could have been. Ace's personal life remained relatively private. He married Jeanette Trelola in 1976 at the height of Kiss fame. They had 1 daughter, Monique. The marriage eventually ended, but they remained amicable co-parents. Both were by his side in his final days. Ace and Monique shared matching tattoos, a symbol of their father-daughter bond that transcended the chaos of rock stardom. Despite his rock and roll image, Ace never completely abandoned his spiritual roots. Raised Lutheran by his church-going father, he maintained faith throughout his life. In a 2009 interview, he credited that faith with helping him through difficult times. In January 2024, just months before his passing, he posted about his New Year's resolutions. One of them was getting closer to God, a reflection of the peace he sought in his later years. Ace remained musically active well into his 70s. His final studio album, 10,000 Volts, was released in February 2024. He continued touring until weeks before his passing, still thrilling audiences, still playing with that same fire that made him a legend 50 years earlier. Then came late September 2025, the fall that changed everything. Initially, it seemed minor. Ace posted on social media that he was fine but would cancel an upcoming concert as a precaution. Fans sent well wishes. Everyone assumed he'd be back on stage soon. But behind the scenes, the situation was far more serious. Doctors discovered a brain bleed. His condition deteriorated rapidly. The skull fracture at the back of his head had caused damage that couldn't be repaired. The subdural hematoma led to a stroke. Emergency surgery couldn't stop